Hello, welcome to my predictions video for WWE's Clash at the Castle pay-per-view or premium live event that's emanating from Cardiff, Wales today, in only a few hours from this video going up. So let's crack on, shall we? So we've got the maximum amount of time for you guys to watch this before the show. I'm going to just go off WWE.com's match listing, starting at the bottom of the list and working my way up to the main event at the top. So this is not necessarily the match order, but this is the order that they're on WWE.com. Starting with Edge and Rey Mysterio versus the Judgment Day. So this is an interesting one because Edge and Rey Mysterio are definitely like further up the card overall than Judgment Day, and have history as a tag team and etc. etc. Could this be where they finally do the Dominic turn, though? He's not involved in the match itself. He's just going to be at ringside, along with Rhea Ripley, who, you know, there's all the memes going around about their involvement and whatnot. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. Let's go with Judgment Day to win, and it possibly being due to Dominic finally turning on Rey. You know, as has been rumoured for, like, at least 6 months at this point, probably a lot more. In fact, yeah, it was rumoured going into WrestleMania, wasn't it, that Dominic was going to turn on Rey. So yeah, it's way over 6 months, I would say, now that those rumours started. So yeah, let's go with them actually pulling the trigger now and have Judgment Day pick up the win here. Up next, Intercontinental Champion Gunther defending against Sheamus. I predict that this is going to be a hell of a hard-hitting match. Now, there's been some interesting developments on Twitter. Pete Dunne, well, Pete, quote, Butch Dunne on Twitter, he is. You know, he's still got his real name, but he's also got Butch on there. Says, Gunter is a stupid name, signed, and then signs it Butch, which I thought was pretty funny. Pete Dunne also appeared on SmackDown last night in his Pete Dunne attire for a match. So, they could do something interesting here where they have Butch break away from Sheamus' group and become Pete Dunne. I also, with that in mind, think that it's too early in Gunther's reign to be taking it off him. There is the little sort of niggling fact in the back of my mind that I think the Intercontinental Championship is the only title Sheamus needs to become a Grand Slam champion. So there's a chance he wins it here and they hot potato it back and forth a little bit and it ends up back on Gunther. But I am going to go with Gunther. Let's just go with that. So Walter / Gunther to pick up the win, possibly because of Pete Dunne. I'm predicting a lot of interference / turns, aren't I here? Oh well. Up next, Matt Riddle. He got his name back against Seth Rollins. He didn't have a freaking. On WWE.com it still says Riddle versus Seth freaking Rollins, but on Raw they were labelled on their little split screen promo as Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins, weren't they? Which is interesting and nice. So things got real personal on Raw, and I think there's a possibility that what they're going to do here is have some sort of Riddle loses his rag completely with Seth Rollins and Rollins picks up the win by DQ or something here, like Riddle goes too far. Either that or they're going to have Riddle absolutely squash Rollins in a rage. But I think they're more likely to continue the story by having Rollins pick up a dodgy DQ win, and then they can go forward into a no DQ stipulation of some description where Riddle gets the win. So yeah, I'm going to predict Rollins here, although I'll be honest, I'm not really sure about any of these predictions. I'll be honest, I've not been watching week in, week out WWE for quite some time. I do believe it's better, I just haven't found the time to add it to my schedule, because I already had a pretty full schedule, and then Vince went and Triple H took over and everything started to get a little bit better from what I've heard and from what I've been keeping up with, but I just haven't found an extra 5 hours a week to start keeping up with it again. I will have to endeavour to. So I'm making most of these based on results I've heard, which you can sometimes get a different vibe just from actually watching the show. But just from results I've read and rumours I've heard about how it's going, that's how I'm making my predictions. So I'm going to pick Seth Rollins by some sort of schmoz DQ, or maybe even just outsmarting Riddle, you know, because he's in a rage. There's a chance he gets a win like with a roll-up or something as well. Or even with a stomp, you know, like gets Riddle to overcommit and then stomps him and pins him. There's always a chance of that as well. I think ultimately Riddle wins this feud, but at the moment I think maybe Seth Rollins picks up a win here. Up next, the 6-woman tag between Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss and Asuka versus Bayley, Dakota Kai and Io Sky. I am going to predict this as it is announced. There are rumours and rumblings of a personnel change on the babyface side. If such a thing occurs, I definitely think Bianca Belair's team is winning. However, as it's currently listed, I think surely Team Bayley, I've forgotten what their name is. They've got a name, haven't they? The begins with a C. I can't remember what it is, but they've got like a group name. Hang on.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I think what I was thinking of was the Control. Doesn't quite ring right, but apparently WWE have now trademarked Damage Control, and Dakota Kai has tweeted something about Damage Control, so it looks like that's going to be their name, which I'm not a super big fan of. I can't remember what it was I was thinking, but I don't think it was the Control, despite me predicting the C at the beginning. Anywho, I think they need to pick up a win here, right? They lost in the Women's Tag Title Tournament final, admittedly through some shenanigans, but they're trying to build a story where I assume Bayley challenges for Bianca Belair and trying to make this stable a credible threat. So surely they have to pick up a win here, possibly even with Bayley pinning Belair somehow. Again, probably not super clean, probably something dodgy going down, you know, some heelish tactics. But I think the heels need to pick up the win here, so I'm going to predict Bayley, Kai and Sky to pick up the win. Up next, the SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan defends against Shayna Baszler. Now, this is a tough one because Liv Morgan has been presented pretty weak as a babyface champion, which is weird booking to say the least, and needs a good, strong performance and good, strong, clean win here. However, Shayna Baszler has been started to be booked like the Shayna of old, the NXT Shayna Baszler, and to halt her momentum with a clean loss to a thus far weak champion is going to be, like, not great for her. So it's difficult, but I do think the need for Liv Morgan to re-establish herself, I should say, as a babyface, because the fans are starting to turn on her because she's not being booked super face. And I don't think it's deliberate. I think it's an error in judgment. So with that in mind, I think Liv needs the win and needs it to be clean, so I'm going to predict Liv to retain her. Also, it just makes more sense with the Ronda Rousey ongoing stuff. I don't think this could lead to a triple threat, but I don't think it's going to lead to Rousey versus Baszler. So there's a chance it leads to a triple threat, in which case either of them could win. But the more likely route, I would say, is to lead back to Liv versus Ronda. So Liv needs the title, so let's give her the win here. That makes sense. And finally, the main event of the evening. The Uru champion, Roman Reigns, that stands for Undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Roman Reigns defending, as far as I'm aware, both titles, or the unified title, the Undisputed title, against Drew McIntyre. There's a lot of rumblings about this being the time for Drew, with him being in his quote-unquote hometown. Obviously, he's not even in the right country, but he's a lot closer to home than he usually is when he's challenging for the title. So I understand the sentiment behind that. I just don't think now's the time, and I don't think Drew's the guy. I don't know who or when is the guy or the time at this point, but I just don't think this is it. I think maybe Reigns could even go till next WrestleMania. I haven't got a clue, but I'm starting to think Reigns loses sometime before Mania, actually. But I don't think it's here to Drew McIntyre somehow. I don't know why. It just doesn't quite feel right. One thing I will say is the mathematics of professional wrestling. Drew McIntyre slaughtered the Bloodline on SmackDown last night. And if you come out on top on the go-home show, you lose on the pay-per-view. Like, that's the mathematics of pro wrestling, isn't it? So I do think there may be something to that. And it just doesn't feel... It's never felt in the build like this is going to be it. This is going to be the time, somehow. So I'm going to say it's Roman Reigns to pick up the win and retain the Uru Championship. So, let me just recap my predictions so that we've got them in a succinct form at the end of the video. So, I'm going to pick Judgment Day to beat Edge and Rey Mysterio, Gunther to retain against Sheamus, Seth Rollins to beat Matt Riddle, probably through shenanigans though, Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky to defeat Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka, Liv Morgan to defeat Shayna Baszler to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship, and Roman Reigns to defeat Drew McIntyre to retain the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. There we go. I will add one extra thought to that main event, which is, I feel like when this bloodline dominance starts to crumble, the Usos have to go first, and the Usos still have their titles. I think as long as the Usos still have the tag titles, Reigns keeps his title. I think that feels like the logical order of things. I feel like the crumbling either all happens on one night, in which case the Usos probably go first because Reigns is probably the main event, or the Usos go first and then a bit down the line Reigns crumbles as well. Strong chance that this whole Sami Zayn thing is leading to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking the titles off the Usos, which I think definitely comes before Reigns loses his title. So that's why I'm going to stand by my prediction. So yeah, Judgment Day, Gunther, Rollins, Team Bayley, Liv Morgan, and Roman Reigns. Let me know in the comments which you agree with, what you disagree with, what your reasoning is, etc, etc. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you're new here, and share with your friends if you think they would enjoy what I do. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been EBEZA, you've been amazing, and I will see you next time.